Oh, that's a way to start it.
I don't even know if I can say that. I don't know if I can honestly say that after that. Oh, so welcome to our podcast, the first episode. So welcome to the first episode of our podcast. Let's get real. So John, what's happening?
It's good to finally be here, man. You know, get first episode boxed off. We're into it. What we got going on?
I'm still trying to soak that shot, to be honest with you.
Still trying to recover from that.
Yeah, I am. So, what's happening?
So I think one of the things you wanted to delve into was crime in the UK, right?
Yeah.
So I think firstly, let's get his opinions on it. So in the UK, what's your opinions on crime?
So knife crime.
Yes.
I fucking hate people who use knives, for starters. So, again, knives in general, is that enough? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, put this down like that. I was looking at I've read somewhere statistics of knife crime, and I think in 2020 alone, there was around 46,000 cases recorded of stabbings with sharp objects and knives. Right, which is mental. 46,000 a year.
46,000 a year?
A year, yeah.
Fucking hell, that's...
And that's like all-time record highs. Mm-hmm. And I just think that people who use knives are fucking pussies, pretty much.
I'm in complete agreement. I think, this it is a controversial topic. I think people that use knives don't like to hear it, but it's a coward's way out. In my opinion, it's a coward's way out. I don't think there's a need for a knife in any fight, right? If you want to handle your business, you want to settle your business, fine. But why endanger and possibly take someone's life for it? I understand that for these people, it's their livelihood. I've never been involved in it, never seen it, never been a part of it. And I understand it is their livelihood, it's their business, but it doesn't need a knife. It doesn't need endangering someone's life.
Here's a good example. Here's a really good example that actually just came to me. Do you remember, not even, how long ago was this? Was this a few weeks ago? Oh, it must have been probably the best part of 2 months ago now, sorry. We was in my front garden, and I don't know if you was there, but some kids...
Oh, no, I remember what you're talking about, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so kids walked up the street, and I heard one. Was you there the night before when the kid ran up the street?
Yes.
Right, yeah, so we're talking about kids between the age of...
Maximum 16, 17.
Yeah, 15.
Like young people, yeah.
Yeah, 15 to 17, let's just say max. And I heard one of them run up the street. I was in the garden. I think it was probably around 9, 10 o'clock at night when it first happened. It
wasn't early, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just getting dark, I think.
Just getting dark. One ran up street, got my attention, and I heard another one running up the street. And then I heard him talking about, let's go back and we'll fucking stab him or something like, I'll fucking stab him, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, instantly when I heard that frustrates me. There's something about it that really frustrates me. And I think it's because I've got this fear of being stabbed as well. Yep. Right? I think that's probably one of my biggest fears as well. Yeah. Just thinking, when I think about getting shot, it sounds easier than getting stabbed. Like looking down and seeing a fucking hole in you is ruthless. And I've had a couple of occasions where I've run into people with knives, right? And we'll get onto that in just a second. But again, that kid who ran up the street, no older than 15 to 17 years old, talking about stabbing people when his life hasn't even started yet, not understanding consequences, what it does to families. And I just think it's fucking ruthless. So, but again, that angered me. And I think we was in the garden the next day. I think you come down, we were fixing a car or something like that. Something were happening in the garden. And the same kids in this little gang walked up the street, and I had to say something.
You stopped them, really. Let's be honest. You stopped them and you gave them a talking to. I mean, but it's right, though, because I think people show off and, brag about having knives and carrying knives. And then I think, especially the young, impressionable kids that we're talking about here, they see it happen and they think, oh, it's cool. It's cool to carry knives. And then they do get in a situation and have to use it, right? And, well, I say have to use it, but they don't have to. There's always a choice. You can always leave. You can always walk away. And and then they don't actually realise what they've done, and then it will hit them because, you know, no matter how much we say about the police and we hate the police, whatever, they will find out who's done it eventually. You know, most times they will find out who's done it. Someone's seen it. Someone's caught it on a camera. Especially these days, there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
and you will face the consequences for it, and it's just there's just no need for it at all.
Is there actually any kind of, like with a firearm? I think it's a minimum if you get caught with it, even just having a firearm on you. I think it's probably around, you're looking at 5 years.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that with a knife? I'm not too sure.
I'm not sure. I think it depends on the extent of damages, right? Because you can get arrested for carrying a knife. You can get arrested for using a knife, anything like that, threatening people with knives. There's different sentences.
Is there any consequences for carrying? Something I actually haven't looked into, which
I'm not sure, because I know there's. I'm fairly sure it's anything over a 3 or 5 inch blade or something like that. And anything under that, you still have to have a reason for it. So you've got to have, if it's a Swiss Army knife or something like that, obviously you're using it as a tool. But if you're walking around carrying a kitchen knife with you, unless you've just bought it from a shop and it's in a package, it's in its package or whatever, there's no reason to carry it around. And I'm fairly sure, I'm not sure I don't think they just confiscate it off you. I do think there is some form of repercussion, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
I mean, I know I think it's for guns. If you're caught with having a firearm on you, I think it's like a minimum of 5 years. That's without even shooting it.
Yeah.
To my awareness, obviously that could be wrong, but I'm sure it is around a minimum of 5 years from the last time I looked. But I'm not sure if there is any sentence for even carrying a knife. Now, if there isn't, I think that should take effect.
Yeah.
Because
exactly, there's. I think that the problem is, though, right? And I've read articles, watched documentaries on things like this all the time. When you go down that YouTube rabbit hole and you end up going onto a topic that you necessarily didn't want to go onto, but you end up on it anyway. And there's a lot of people who carry knives simply for the fact that other people carry knives, right?
Correct.
So especially if you look at the gangs down in London, they all are carrying something. There's some form of weapon, knife, gun, whatever.
Yeah.
To protect what's theirs and also to protect themselves against other people, because two knives, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, bring a knife to a knife fight, things like that. But still, it doesn't. The problem needs to be sorted at source, right? And I guess the only thing you could do is crack down on it. I understand that just carrying a knife, it is a big thing. But if you've just got it on you, why would you get a massive sentence for that? But it's gonna have to go that way, or else knife crime's going to keep going up. People have got to not bring them out with them. People have not got to think that it is okay to carry them with them, even if they're not intending on using it. They still have it on them. And when you're in a situation you're backed into a corner, you've got no choice, right? So it's a hard one, but I do think that the sentencing and punishment for stuff like that needs to be.
I think it's kids that are worse. This new generation. Yeah, the new generation coming up. I just don't think that kids, and these are kids that we're talking about, are understanding the consequences that it does to families. And people think, I can shank him a few times, right? But they think that, all right, I'll shank him a few times. But the thing is, it only takes that one, just that one stab in the wrong place, and that's it. Do you get what I mean? And it's honestly, it's fucking bonkers.
And that's true to everything. I mean, I think it was a year or two ago on, I think it was Good Morning Britain, there was someone who had been imprisoned for 3, 4, 5 years because he killed someone in a fight with his hand. His friend was in a fight. He went to back his friend. He punched the guy once. He fell over, hit his head, died. There you go, manslaughter. Caught a manslaughter charge, went down 5 years for throwing one punch in a fight which wasn't even his fight. And then you're talking about adding a weapon into that, a knife, which do serious damage. It's not the external damage, the internal damage that they do. There's not a lot of places you can get stabbed with a knife where it isn't going to sever an artery or sever, your organs or anything like that. And the damage it does, and not just to the person, to the family of that person, to the community around that person, and it puts people on edge and makes more people carry knives because they want to protect themselves. They think, well, what happened to me? I've not got anything on me. I couldn't do anything about that.
And the thing is, it's one of them things that just keeps popping up, and it looks like nothing is ever done about it. There should be more consequences. Nobody should be carrying a knife in the fucking open.
Yep.
You know, on the streets. It shouldn't be a thing. I mean, and it's one of them things that keep popping up. Look, at a couple of weeks ago, the kid got his hand chopped off.
Yeah.
Again, that's a machete, but still, it's the same thing, and it's just happening too much.
Yeah. The sad thing is, though, it's not making. I don't know if you've noticed, it doesn't make national news a lot, right? If a young child's involved, maybe 12, 13, 14, maybe, or an innocent person's involved, maybe, but it doesn't make national news a lot, which is a bad thing because we know it's happening, but the media don't think it's news anymore. It's so common that it's not news. You'll see it on local news for sure, definitely on there. It'll be all over social media, everything like that. But it won't hit national news because it's too common now. They wouldn't be able to cover every single story involving a knife because it happens so often, and that's the sad part. And the sad reality is it happens way too often.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen that video, probably around last week, of a bouncer, right, covering the doors. And I swear this was probably around a week ago, right? Bouncer on the doors, you see the CCTV footage of a little bit of commotion outside.
Yeah,
so you've seen the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So bouncer outside telling this guy he can't come in or something along them kind of lines. And then there's a guy watching in the background.
Yeah.
Again, you wouldn't even suspect that there's somebody watching you or planning to stab you. The guy in the back is literally thinking, right, I'm going to go stab these guys. Didn't care which one of them there was. There was around 3 guys giving this bouncer a little bit of commotion. It did look like the guy who was doing the stabbing was sticking up for the bouncer, but again,
from the looks of it,
there's no need to pull out a knife, right?
There was no way that situation could have got worse from what it already was, right? I mean, they were starting a physical altercation with a bouncer, but you have to remember bouncers are trained. They're trained. You have to get a license to become a bouncer. He would know how to handle himself. I'm sure there wasn't only one bouncer there. In a lot of crowded areas, busy places, there's a lot of bouncers. Other bouncers will step in from across the street. They will. That's what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a need to go and just stab someone for something as silly as that.
As silly as
de-escalate. That's all we've got to do. Or call the police.
Correct. Yeah. And I think there was 3 guys, right, who was giving him a little bit of stick. This one bouncer, he wouldn't let him in for whatever reason. I don't think there was any audio. Now, this guy comes out of nowhere. They didn't punch the bouncer, to my awareness, from what I remember. I think
they just pushed him. Yeah,
they pushed him.
Yeah,
that push literally caused the guy to pull out a knife, not care where he stabbed them, and just started swinging it and just stabbing people for fun. And I think he stabbed like 2 or 3 of them, didn't he?
I think he caught 2 of them. I think one of them got stabbed. I believe from the video, it looked like it got stabbed in the face.
Yeah.
And again, it caused serious damage. And the fact that the guy was chasing them down, they started running away because obviously they're not expecting to get in a fight with someone with a knife. And they were running away, and he was trying to run them down. And it's just, people are so willing to be able to go and literally go and kill someone on the side of the street, someone they've never met before, over something as petty as that.
It's crazy. I once had a kid when I was in high school. Don't know if I ever told you this one. Where and this is probably where my fear of knives stem from, right? And I've had 2 or 3, altercations with people with knives, right? I remember one time going into school, no reason at all. And when I say no reason at all, I mean no reason at all. He went around telling kids, this was a pupil in my class, went around telling kids that I'm going to stab Tyler. I'm going to stab him in his leg and then in his heart, right? Now, what kind of weird person, right, who even says something like that? And I had people
threatens that.
Yeah. So I had people coming up to me, probably the best part of half of day, saying that when you go into that class, he's saying he's going to stab you in the leg and he's going to stab you in the heart. So I remember going into the class, not really thinking much, and I've never even, to my awareness from when I remember back, I've not even spoke to the kid. So I don't even know why you didn't like me, why people were saying this. And obviously I wasn't going to go up to him and be like, hey, listen, I've heard you're going to blah, 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 right? I think about 2 or 3 people come up to me and said that's what he's going to do, right? So I remember going into this class, and out of nowhere, I heard this chair from behind me just move. So I literally looked back and I seen a kid with a knife in his hand. Have I ever told you this? I don't think I have.
I think you've told me once.
So I've noticed he had the knife in his hand and he chased me around the fucking classroom with a knife. I was throwing chairs, tables, doing anything I could
just to get away from him.
Yeah, just to get away from that kid. And the unfortunate thing about that school is magnets was on each corridor to stop kids from wandering corridors, right? You had to have a teacher's key card to swipe, right? It opens doors. Luckily, I had the strength then to rip the magnets off the doors and obviously keep running. And anyway, I ended up getting expelled. I hadn't even seen that kid since, but that just shows that
willing to just...
he was just willing to stab me for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the thing is...
Weird.
I think the worst part is the psychology of it, right? Because these people know that they're not going to get... if you stab someone in a classroom full of people, you're not going to get away with that. Like someone's... You know you're going to go to prison for that. It doesn't matter how old you are. Something will happen. And they're still willing to do it over what? Over nothing. It's just crazy. I think there was a story, I think it was September last year, of I think it was a group of people, 16 to 18, I believe, who were at a derelict factory. Well, no, a running factory actually, and they're out in the factory yards. And one of the factory workers came out and said, "Listen, you can't be here. I understand you're having a bit of fun, but you can't be here. This is private property. Will you please leave?" And from what I gathered, they were happy to leave. They started to leave until he pulled his phone out. And he pulled his phone out to ring the security office or the police. I'm not sure which one. I think it was the security office on site. And he was just telling the security guys, right, there's people here. I've told them to leave and they're leaving. And two of the young lads, 16 and 19, turned around and thought thought the factory workers were recording them and started threatening him and pulled out, I think it was like a machete. It was like a big blade, we're talking that.
Yeah.
With paracord wrapped around the handle. So obviously, bought on Amazon or whatever. And started threatening with it and then went and stabbed him. And he fell to the floor, still on the phone. So all this was recorded, which they played, in the court when they're being trialed. And you could hear him pleading them to stop. And this is going to get graphic now. So if you don't like this sort of stuff, you're going to have to skip ahead. But they passed the knife between them and stabbed him over 100 times. They were saying to each other, pass the shank, let me have a go. And then right at the end, when he was clear, you'd be stabbed 100 times, you're dead. That's it. He was dead. And then they tried to decapitate him for the simple fact that he pulled his phone out and called someone to say, "There's people here, but they're leaving." Yeah,
I think I remember this. And how old was they?
16 and 18 or 16 and 19. Like
Again, that, man, he's so young. I don't think they honestly understand the consequences. Now, I was speaking funny enough to Jordan and Finn last week, and they was telling me, I can't remember what school they went to. There was a teacher a few years back. I think Finn was in an upstairs classroom, and downstairs there was a kid. And from what Finn was telling me now, I could be wrong. I'm just going to requote what he said. This kid, I think a teacher came in to read some exams from what I remember, right? They were doing some exams. I think she was retired, but she came in to help. I think she used to work there. So she came in to look at these kids' exams that they've done. And I think she marked this kid's grades wrong or something along them lines, right? And he said he was going to kill her, right, to people. He pulled out a knife and started stabbing her in the neck repeatedly and killed her. And Finn was literally just upstairs in classroom above. It's just unreal.
Over something, but that surely brings back to the fact that how are they getting these knives, right? So the issue is you can pick up a knife anywhere, right? You can go to a shop. Yes, you have to be over 18, but there's a lot of local shops who don't bother. There's been a lot of unmarked officers going in trying to purchase a knife, and they have sending a younger age person in to go and buy a knife, and they've been able to, and they've been able to buy a kitchen knife, 6-inch kitchen knife, yes, in its packaging, whatever, and it's marked, but they're still able to buy it, and you can't stop people getting access to knives because everyone's got knives at home. You won't be able to stop that. And which brings us back to the fact that there has to be harsher punishment for carrying one.
Sorry about that. The thing is, where does this stem from?
I'd say personally, I think there is a massive influence, especially in the UK, from things like rap, right? The UK drill scene, things like that.
Yeah.
That every single song, every single track, there's someone talking about someone stabbing someone, or I've done this to someone, I've done that to someone, and it stems a lot from gang, organised crime and gang violence.
And do you know what? As silly as that sounds, you've really just triggered something in my head right there. Again, like this new kind of music, like this drill music, and when I hear people listen to it, I think, what a load of shit.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Especially the UK stuff. It's like, what are we creating?
Yeah.
Do you know, where's that like strong country from 1944?
Yeah.
You know, the country that beat the Luftwaffe.
Yeah.
You know, who beat Nazi Germany and strong-minded people back then. Now it's either full of snowflakes or wannabe gangsters in a sense, you know, and I think it's just a messed up generation. I think it's honestly messed up. But I think, again, like you were just saying, the music scene now I think plays a massive factor in knife crime. And as silly as that sounds, because you see people, especially younger generation, listening to this kind of music and they're getting off on it. And again, it does talk a lot about stabbing and stuff like that and shanking people. And I just think it's...
And as well, surely they have to then think, well, I'm listening to someone who said they've done this. They said they stabbed this person, which I think, by the way, and a lot of people, again, are going to hate me, they don't actually do it. So I think it's all fake. I think there's a lot of fake people out there. There is, as you say, a wannabe gangsters out there. And they see that they've allegedly done this. They've allegedly stabbed whoever. And they're out free as a bird.
Yeah.
Walking around making songs. And, you know, if you have to wear a balaclava on your music track to hide your face because you've done something wrong, then you just shouldn't be making things. Why are you making music? Just make normal music about your life, about whatever. Just don't idealize violence, gang violence, stabbing, killing, whatever. Why? What's the point?
Don't you think it's crazy though? Why is the younger generation and people who are even older than me looking up to these kinds of people?
Exactly.
Like, why are we not looking up to, people that are doing good things for the country, self-improving and stuff like that? And I think it takes a certain kind of mindset. And I think there's only a certain amount of people. You see, I could dip into a load of topics right here, right? But I'm going to try to stay on a narrow path because I could easily dive down
it's easy
a rabbit
to go,
hole.
Yeah,
because this expands into lots of different topics now.
Yeah.
Right? And it does, doesn't it, really? Where does this all stem from? What kind of people should we be looking up to, etc.? And now I just need to pick which one I want to go down, right, without going off topic too much. So I don't know. This is just it's too much. There's too much I can say, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I think one thing though that I would definitely like to cover is, so I would say one of the most similar countries we have to us would probably be the US, right?
Right.
And crime over there is very different. From what I've seen, again, I've never been, don't really know too much about their crime scene, but you do see that gun violence in the US is probably a prime factor over there, right?
Yeah.
There is a lot of gun violence because guns are readily available. And when you then compare it to the UK, I think from what I read, from 2015 to 2019, gun crime, so crimes involving a firearm, so that doesn't necessarily mean someone's been shot. That could be a shooting, carrying a weapon, in possession of a weapon, of a firearm. Sorry, so it kind of encompasses all of that. But gun crimes have increased by 38% from 2015 to 2019. Now, again, that does correspond with a general rise in crime. Again, I think from 2010 to 2019, there has been a rise each year in numbers of crimes committed. And again, this is only reported crimes. There are a lot of gun crimes which I'm sure do happen, which aren't reported. But it begs the question, how are people in one of the strictest countries getting firearms, right? So over here, for the people that don't know, we have really strict gun laws, okay? So you can have a single action shot or a single or double action shotgun, and you have to complete a form. You have to have a background check. You have to, I believe, you have to have a police visit to your house to check that you have a secure area to house the firearm. You've got to meet all these requirements just to get a shotgun, right? And that can only be for sporting purposes, or clay pigeon shooting, pheasant shooting, things like that. So you see a lot of farmers with shotguns. If you talk about firearms outside of that, I believe you can have single shot, bolt action, lever action, or revolving rifles in any caliber. And then I think if it's a semi-automatic, it has to be 22 rimfire, I think, which is a really, really small caliber weapon, right? So that's the legal ways to get a firearm in the UK, and you have to get a license for all of those. The illegal ways is the scary bit, because that's where people get AK-47s, pistols, handguns. By the way, pistols are completely illegal in the UK. You cannot carry or own a pistol unless it is a inactive, decommissioned, historical piece or whatever like that. And the fact is, the border control in the UK, if we compare, airlines where you have to go through security scanners, your bag gets scanned, your bags get checked, all of that, and then you compare it to, for example, getting a ferry from Dover to Calais in France, there's only random vehicle searches. They don't search a person, they search a vehicle, and it's completely random. If they find your vehicle to be suspicious, then they might search it. But the problem is, people can just go to Eastern European countries where firearms are more readily available, illegal or not, and bring them into the UK, and that's how they are getting them, and they're selling them in the UK for thousands of pounds because they're so, because we can't get them here as available as we can in America. And I think that's one of the issues, right? People can get these, same with knives. If you know the right people, you can actually get it relatively easily.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and that's something I was literally just about to say. It's not exactly hard to get hold of a gun in the UK.
Exactly. It's too easy.
It's way too easy. Now, again, just dipping back to that knife crime thing, why don't we have the same consequences for carrying a knife like a firearm, right? Because that should, if people knew there was let's just say a minimum of a 5-year sentence for even carrying a knife, it'd make people think more than twice.
Yeah. You would think, but the problem is, I think there's a massive, again, psychological thing of people know if they stab someone, they're going to get a life sentence. If you kill someone, you're going to get a life sentence. Well, most of the time, you're going to get a life sentence, right? They do it anyway. They don't care. There's no... I think, and this brings us on to the topic of prison, which is a whole other topic which we're going to have to cover another day. But, in prison, you have access to TVs, game consoles, whatever. Like, it isn't as harsh as people think. And that's the problem. People don't see it as they do see it as a bad thing, a negative thing, but people aren't now, at least, being brought up in the way that we were, that you just don't do that. You don't take another person's life. You don't hurt people for no reason. Well, for any reason, really. You shouldn't hurt anyone for any reason. There is always the option to turn around and walk away. You don't need to stab someone. You don't need to hurt, so you don't have to fight them, whatever. Just leave.
Right. So I agree with the knives and guns, right? Mm-hmm. But I still think a good old-fashioned fist fight, if you want to call it, is still on the cards. Why not? Do you know what I mean? It builds character. It does. And I agree with that, right? And it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation, because I think it's always good to be prepared, because you never know what's going to happen now. And sometimes you can see when people have a fist fight, they shake hands after, and that's it, all done. It's over and done with. Sometimes when the thing is, when people walk away from situations, sometimes from a heated situation, and they don't have that fist fight, you know, they've still got that anger against that person when they see them next. Do you get what I mean? Sometimes,
which leads to premeditation and things like that. But again, going back to that story, one punch can kill someone, right? You know, you see it again. It's something that's quite common. You know, manslaughter charges where people have not necessarily intended to kill someone, but they have. But is it worth it? Is it worth that? You know, you winning or you beating up another person or whatever.
I mean,
if you want to fight, become a boxer, become a UFC fighter.
If you can walk away, I agree, right? If you can walk away from the situation, then it's always best to do so.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's like the older I've got, the more I'm starting to understand this, right? Being a bit more of a gentleman, let's just say. Because I mean, when you're young, you've just got that spark in you. You've got this energy. You're not really trying to prove to yourself, but you're more trying to prove to other people. Yeah. I think it's when you start getting a little bit older, you start to calm down a little bit. That's what I've seen, right?
Yeah.
But I just think, you know, I don't know, if you can walk away from the situation, by all means, walk away from the situation. But if you're backed into the corner and you can't, I don't think there's all wrong with having a fist fight, right?
If you're defending yourself, then I completely agree. But for me, the way I was raised, at least, and it was the same for a lot of people that I went to school with, was violence in itself it shouldn't be on the table. You know, it wasn't a massive issue that I've ever faced.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I've been told, you know, if someone hits you, you just walk away. If you can, again, walk away. But I wouldn't get if I was in that situation, I would fight back, but I wouldn't engage. I wouldn't engage in it myself. I wouldn't start a fight for no reason or anything like that. I would try and steer clear of it because it's not worth it in the long run. What do you gain from it? You know, cost benefit. What could go wrong, and what do you gain from it? Street cred.
You see,
why do you need street cred?
Right. Okay. If it's a planned fight, I think that's different.
Yeah.
But most fights, 9 times out of 10, are not really planned.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have time to think in that split second when they happen. Let me weigh up the consequences.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. No, I guess, and you know, if there's two people that want to have are there at each other, want to fight, you know, go for it, right? You're both consenting to do it, but if there's one person that's initiating and, you know, cheap shotting, whatever, you know, why? It's the same with it for me with knife crime. Why? There's just no need to do it. I mean, if you really want to fight, do it in an environment where people aren't going to get seriously hurt, like in a boxing ring, whatever. Go to your local boxing ring if you want. You know, go and fight in a cage, whatever. Just go into a place where if someone gets hurt, they're going to get help.
Yeah.
You know, there's not that much of a risk. You can get seriously injured, but the risk is so much lower. And do it like that. Just don't go on the street and start brawling with people. You know, especially people that don't want to brawl, right? If you want to brawl with someone else and they want to brawl, go for it, whatever. But if you're going and fighting people that don't want to fight, they're just there out having a good time, and you're trying to start a fight with people, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, talking about fighting, I'm gutted. I'm so fucking gutted that Tyson Fury is not fighting Anthony Joshua. Moving on to more positive notes, right?
Let's go to something more positive.
I'm so gutted
that
Anthony Joshua is not fighting Tyson Fury.
Yeah. And again, controversial. Who wants to see Fury fight Wilder again? We know what's going to happen. He's going to whoop his ass. He did last time. He will again. He's improved himself. He's now got the power that he needs to beat Wilder. Wilder can't touch him. Wilder's a power puncher, right? Bronze bomber. That's what he is. But he won't land that because he's not going to let him land that. And we've seen even if he does land that, he rises from the dead and stands up. From a fighter which, you know, Wilder is known for his one-punch knockouts. No, he's not a combination puncher. He is a power puncher. And in the first fight, he stood up from it. He got up,
Not only
from a knockdown.
Not only stood up from
not a knockdown, a knockout. He was knocked out. He was out.
Yeah, we were completely knocked out for at least a good 4 seconds, 4 to 5 seconds.
And
you see his head
from
twitch.
the dead, yeah.
Unreal. But what? I mean, it's not just a knockout, right? He didn't just get up from a knockout. He got up from a knockout in the 12th round.
Yeah. When he was, when it's gas, it just doesn't happen. That's the thing. It doesn't happen, especially because it was a very, very clean left hook from him, which put him down. And to get up from that, as you say, in the 12th round, it's just crazy.
I mean, during them seconds, I bet Wilder just thought, wow, this fight's over. I mean, you can see the look on his face. He starts doing this little shoulder dance.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen him do this little shoulder dance and he's like, whoa, I've done it.
He's like, I've won.
And all of a sudden, just Tyson Fury just gets up like a fucking beast.
And then, they get the draw, then do it again, and he wins hands down. He wins, and his team throws in the towel, don't they? So,
yeah.
I mean, I will watch it, but I'd rather see the Joshua Fury fight. And I do think when they eventually fight, because they can't keep avoiding this, surely they can't keep avoiding this.
Well, I was more gutted the Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua fight did get announced, right? And I think it was with Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. So
it did get announced, buzzing for that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Deontay Wilder comes out of nowhere with a rematch clause.
Yeah.
God. And it's really who wants to see it?
Spotlight again.
Yeah. And honestly, I can't even be asked watching the third fight. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, Deontay Wilder he's probably one of the most brutal knockout artists in boxing.
He is,
right? Yeah. And it's definitely in recent history.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, he's got a good chance of knocking Tyson Fury out if he catches him with a wrong punch. But I mean, I think we've seen the skill from Tyson Fury, and I think it'd have been great to see, and it'd have been good for country as well, to be honest.
Yeah, would have been
two British,
two British giants and legends going together.
Exactly that.
I do think the outcome of that would be a win for Fury. Joshua is used to fighting smaller opponents. Joshua is usually the bigger person, right? And he has a long fighting style, right? So he likes to keep on the outside and line up some combinations and all of that. Whereas if you put him against Fury, who is taller, has a longer reach, he then can't play the long reach fight because he's Fury's got a longer reach. And especially with Fury's feint game, and if you've ever seen Tyson Fury have a fight, to people watching, you will notice he's constantly twitching, moving his hands, throwing feints, and it isn't just like a shoulder move. He does like a good 10% of the punch that he's faking to throw, and throws these amazing feints, which is what catches a lot of people out because they don't know when the punches are going to come.
Yeah.
Whereas Joshua he's more of a not static, but I don't. It's really hard.
He's a very textbook boxer.
Yes, he is. Yeah,
he's a very, very textbook boxer when you look at him. And the thing that I've noticed with Anthony Joshua, don't get me wrong, I think he's an amazing fighter.
Mm-hmm.
He's just very textbook, and he gets tired after round 5.
Yeah,
right. It's obvious, and don't get me wrong, there's delusional people that think he could keep up with Tyson Fury's stamina. Yeah. Right, and I think that's mental.
No, he can't.
No, there's definitely not a chance.
I would be very surprised if he could.
I think it'd be a very good fight up until round 5.
Yeah.
After round 5,
one-sided.
Yeah. So to ask you the question, who do you think who takes that fight?
Fury, hands down, Fury. I do. I think he will. I think he'll take it. I think one of the things he worked on for the Wilder fight was his power, because he's always been very, very, very good in his boxing skill, but his power has somewhat been lacking. He does have knockout power, but if you look at his record, it's not majority knockouts, I think.
Yeah.
And that's one thing he worked on was his knockout power, and he does now have great punching power. And I think, they're similar style fighters in terms of they play the long reach, but he's just going to out long reach him. So there's nothing I don't think he'll be able to do anything. I think he'll be stuck again. I would say after round 5, I think that's it. Yeah. If he makes it to round 5.
I mean, the difference with the last fight, right, was everybody who's fought Deontay Wilder has always been on the back foot, right? Yeah. And I think from what I remember, Tyson Fury's coach recognized that, right? Yeah. Instead of fighting on the back foot, we fight on the front foot and we move forward, right? So Deontay Wilder's always been ready to have this. I think is overhand right. Is it
Overhand
right?
right, yeah.
Right. So it's the overhand right. Right. He's always been ready for that because people have always been on the back foot. It was Tyson. I think it was Tyson Fury's coach who noticed that. Every fight Deontay Wilder's had, that's always what they've done. This time, instead of fighting on the back foot, we applied the pressure. That is why Tyson Fury dominated Deontay Wilder so much in the last fight, right?
Yeah,
so
Wilder's always been the aggressor in his previous fights, I think.
Of course, yeah. So that threw Deontay Wilder completely off track, right? Yeah. So he didn't know what to bring to the table at that point. But now Deontay Wilder's going to know that. What's he going to bring to the table this fight?
That's the thing, he could have completely changed up his style. And that's what we don't know. But I still think either way, I think Fury will be able to adapt to the situation. I think it will take him again. And then that rematch will be done, and then hopefully that does open it up again for Fury and Joshua. I think that'll be the way it goes. It's got to at some point. They've got to fight at some point, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. And apart from that, I'm just looking also forward to Jake Paul.
Yeah.
Versus Tyrone Woodley. Yeah. Yes. Tyrone Woodley. So.
I think it'll be good for Jake to finally fight a striker. Because he hasn't fought a striker yet. He's had it was Anees Gibb, then Nate Robinson, who both have had no boxing experience prior. And then Ben Askren, who is a UFC fighter, who was a Olympic wrestler, great wrestler, but not a striker at all. And he's won all his fights. Hat off to him, I guess, for that. But I think he's finally now going to fight a striker who has knockout power. But we're talking about someone who's lost the last 4 UFC fights, so he's on the decline. So I think it'll be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I think it'd be good for him to get in with Tommy Fury, to be honest.
I was hoping that fight would go.
Yeah, he's still only early in his boxing career.
Yeah.
Right, and looking at Tommy Fury's fights, the people he's fighting are not exactly amazing at the moment, right? But I think if he went in a training camp for Jake Paul, I still think he'd beat him. I think he would. I think he'd smash him, and that's what I want. I want Jake to fight someone who is going to hands down beat him. Just because I don't like him. I've told you this before. I am not a Jake Paul fan. But I do recognise that he does have some skill, right? He's been doing it for 3 years, which isn't a long time in the boxing world, but he's been doing it, full time for 3 years. He doesn't have the amateur background, so he has some talent. If he's able to do that within 3 years, and he is, he can throw a punch. That's the thing. No matter how much I dislike him, he can throw a punch and he can box, but I don't think he can box at the level he thinks he can. He thinks he can because his ego is just over the top at the moment. If I had the opportunity to fight him, I'd fight him, Jake Paul.
I would as well. Because to punch him in the face would be nice.
It would. And I think where YouTube boxing's gone, I think it's just unreal.
Yeah.
I think honestly,
it is going to new levels. We've just seen Logan fight Mayweather, and I think Logan's called out Mike Tyson now as well.
Why would you want to fight Mike Tyson? And now, again, right? Yeah, now, exactly, right now. Don't get me wrong, Mike Tyson is still a fucking savage, right?
He is, yes.
Right? It's still knockout
He's a different
majority.
man now. He's a very, very different man to what he was in his 30s.
Yeah, of course he is, man. You can see his ego changed.
Yeah, even his mindset's completely different now.
By a mile.
Yeah.
Right? And it's crazy, but for Logan to fight Mike Tyson at this age shows that it's not about boxing. Yeah. It's more about pay-per-view and money.
It is, and it's all about the exhibitions, right? If Logan wants to become if he wanted to prove himself as a boxer, he needs to fight up and coming or existing boxers, not people who are at the end of the career. Floyd Mayweather, again, is still a great boxer. He's still up there. He proved it over and over again. He hasn't lost it even with his age. But again, he's a retired fighter. And I think for the both of them, they need to fight boxers if they want to be boxers. and they want to call themselves a boxer, they need to fight in their own league rather than calling out people from UFC or retired fighters or celebrities or whatever. If they want to call themselves boxers, they need to box.
I think it's all going down the wrong road, really.
Yeah.
And you can see it's whole money. It's just all revolved around money.
Yeah.
And I think that's shit.
Yeah. So there's a couple of sides to it, right? I don't think it's too bad because I think people recognise that it is different, right? It's not traditional boxing. It isn't what the sport of boxing is about. But then again, it also does bring a lot of people to the sport. It brings a lot of spotlight onto the sport. There's a lot of people who necessarily wouldn't have enjoyed watching it, who now do enjoy watching it. I wasn't a massive boxing fan until it all started, and then I kind of got into it and enjoyed watching it. So I'm a testament to that. But yeah, I think it's got its positives and negatives, right? It does make a bit of a mockery sometimes of the sport, especially like the TikTok YouTube one. That was just
the TikTok what? TikTok what?
Yeah, TikTok versus YouTubers. There was a whole card.
I thought you said TikTok versus Gucci.
No, that would be interesting. You never know. Yeah, that was. I didn't watch it live. I mean, again, it's very similar to the YouTube one that happened years ago, right? But I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of completely new people getting in a ring of boxing because I don't find it interesting to watch because they don't have a lot of skill. I think from that there was one knockout, and it was one or two fights which looked all right.
Also,
but
are you going to finish that whiskey? Because it's at a level where I've been wanting to top it up for the last.
Oh mate, okay, I will.
30 minutes, right? I've been just wanting to put a touch in there for the last 30 minutes because it's just been there for too long, right?
Yeah. It is what it is, right? It's the way it's going. We can't influence it at all. It's it's the road they're going down. They'll be happy. They're making a lot of money. They're bringing a lot of people to the sport. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. And do you know what? I think that's enough about YouTube, to be honest with you, and YouTube boxing.
I think we can get off that now. Yeah, I think let's get off the violence. Let's talk about something more deep, right? So. You were telling me a story. I think it was when was it with Declan with the sleep paralysis?
Oh yeah, weird one, right?
Let's go for that.
Sleep paralysis. So we've gone from violence, right, to still fighting anyway, right? From knife crime, boxing, and now we're going to sleep paralysis, which takes a bit more of a dark turn, right? I thought we was going to be able to get on something.
We went into the light, and then we've gone back down this dark path. But what you get.
I mean, to be honest with you, though, eventually we are going to be getting onto so many topics, right? Yes. And this is going to be a podcast where we speak about everything.
Yep.
So there's going to be no limits. Exactly that, right? So again, let's get real.
Yeah, let's get real.
Anything that people want us to talk about, we'll talk about, and there's just going to be so many topics. And do you know what? One, I'm going to pick a bone with you eventually, right? I am going to get onto sleep paralysis, right? Because that's next. But I remember telling you about the Bob Lazar story, right? Do you remember Bob Lazar?
Yes.
Right, yeah. So that's the guy who claimed he worked for Area 51, and you told me he was chatting shit, right? But there's a lot of evidence that also backs his claims. Yep. We are going to get into that kind of shit, right? Because I've got a bone to pick with you there.
Yep.
Yeah, because you think I'm wrong. But for now, so sleep paralysis, something I've had a few times. Again, we are going to speak about Declan first. So yeah, there was a time recently on a morning I went downstairs. Declan was trying to shout me, saying, just shout my name, basically, right? I didn't hear him, went downstairs, and eventually when I went back up, he managed to shout my name. I said, what was wrong? And he said, look, I couldn't move, and there was a woman at the bottom of my bed.
Still makes me shit.
Listen, if there's a woman at the bottom of your bed, what's wrong with that?
You can't even complain about that.
Yeah, so he's like, no, listen, she had no tits and no nipples, right? She was flat. No. So she was flat-chested. She had really no face, but long hair, all that kind of thing. And she was in a weird position over the bed, crawling up towards him. Now, he couldn't move at this point. And obviously, he was shitting himself, right? But he managed to shout me. I spoke with him. Now, it was you who brought this up when we was on a Discord conversation.
Yes.
This was a good few months ago when I was in bed. Sorry, Justina was in bed. I was in my office playing games with you on Discord. And Justina comes in and she's like...
She was scared. I mean, I could hear in her voice. She was scared. She was terrified of what she'd just seen.
Yeah, so she's seen a woman as described like Declan did at the bottom of the bed. So this is in the same house. So there's a woman.
You're haunted, man. I'm just straight out there. You're haunted.
You see, I never put two and two together until you said, but what about when Justina had that same issue, right? And then Declan had that issue. So yeah, I thought that's really freaky. Apart from that and sleep paralysis, have you ever had any issues with sleep paralysis?
I've never had anything to do with sleep paralysis as such, but I know I used to get anxiety, really bad anxiety during the night. You know, I'd wake up and my brain would be absolutely like racing. It's so hard to describe it, but it was always relating to numbers, right? There was always like numbers going in my head, like I was like trying to calculate. So it's so weird. It's so weird to talk about it. But I would get really, really anxious, and it would take me, you know, a good half an hour to calm myself down, even if there's someone there trying to calm me down. Luckily, I don't get it anymore. But sometimes you do get, you know, when you get that feeling of just, you get tight-chested. And it was just that for a while. And obviously it was scary because you just wake up and it's just happening, and you can't do anything to stop it other than try and breathe through it. But it's a really weird thing. And I think that brings us on to like, the mind in general. The mind is a strange thing. It's a weird thing. You know, I was watching a video the other day, and it was talking about arachnophobia. Okay, so arachnophobia is a response in the human body, which is, you know, it's coded in us.
Yeah. For
whatever reason, it's coded in us. So they did a study where they had, I think it was like 6 babies with their parents, right? They're showing them videos on a screen of different animals, you know, giraffes, lizards, snakes, whatever, and they're all fine. As soon as they put an image of a spider, their pupils started dilating, which is a sign of fear, and they started getting agitated. So, it in theory proved that we have an auto response to spiders. Now, why would we have that response when spiders, there's like 4 species of spiders which untreated could kill you, right? Or you know, well, I'm sure there's probably a few more, right?
Yeah.
They aren't a massive threat to humans, and I thought, well, you know, back in the day they might have been more of a threat, but so were lions, so were you know big cats, everything like that. But when I go to the zoo and I look at a lion in a cage, I don't go, oh, that scared me, that. You know, I'm feeling anxious being around it. But if I go and look at a tarantula in a cage, I don't like it. I don't want to be near it. I don't want to look at it. You know, even you look at a spider, it makes you feel all weird.
I mean, the thing with spiders, and I mean, I've told you this a million times before, I have a massive issue with spiders.
Yes, yeah.
So I know they're not going to harm me, right? But I wake up, right? So I could be fast asleep, and all of a sudden I'll think of a spider.
Yeah.
And I will be actively dreaming, or is it lucid dreaming?
Lucid dreaming, yeah.
Right, lucid dreaming. So I can wake up, right, throw the quilts off me and think there's a spider, and I can actually see the spider on the wall. Yeah. So, and it'll only be a house spider, but it'll be moving really fast, and I'll be looking at walls because I know it's like, I know it's real, but I know it's not real. I'm awake, but I'm asleep, right? So I can't really process what's going on, and I don't really have a word to describe how it is. But there's been at least 10 to 20 times I've had this, right? And I haven't had it for a little while now. But again, when we start talking about the mind, lucid dreams, something I've had plenty of. I woke up randomly in the night and started wrapping my laptop up, thinking I needed to send it somewhere, right? So I started wrapping with wrapping paper, right? And the reason I had wrapping paper in the room at the time is because I was sending other parcels, right? But I remember waking up one night, and when I say remember, I vividly remember waking up and thinking, shit, I need to send this parcel to this guy. He bought it 3 days ago or whenever. we're talking about my laptop, right? Nobody's bought my laptop. I run over to my laptop, grab it, grab some wrapping paper and start wrapping this laptop up, right? To send it to someone who doesn't exist but in my dream.
Yeah.
So
it's just things like that, and it is all the mind. Why do we do that? Why do we dream? Why are we active dreaming all the time? And it's like, for example, pain, right? Pain is all in the mind. You don't actually feel pain. It's your nervous system. So if you put your hand near something hot, right, you touch something hot, your body's then saying, right, if I keep my hand there, it's going to damage my body. So I'm going to send a pain signal through your nerves, and that makes you jerk your hand away, right?
Yeah.
And that, it's all in your mind. And it's mind-boggling, because there's people who don't feel pain, right? They don't have like the hormone or the protein or whatever which produces the electrical signal in your nerves for pain.
Yeah.
And it's blocked, and they can literally like break their arm and not feel it, or they can eat something spicy and not feel it. They don't feel depressed. They don't feel sad. They don't feel like they're almost emotionless apart from happy or whatever.
When it comes to the mind, I think it's a whole topic that we could speak about for weeks on end, right?
Yeah.
Because again, we could start getting on with things like DMT, all that kind. And do you know what? I think people like Mike Tyson use that kind of thing. If you're unaware of what DMT is, you can look it up. And people say they see different dimensions. There's higher beings.
Yeah.
You can connect, and it's just unreal. Like, where does consciousness stop?
Yep.
Right. So,
and where does it go? Where does it go? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Where does your consciousness go? Because one of the laws of physics is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is there, right?
Yeah.
So if consciousness is energy, which we don't know because we've never proven it, it's got to go somewhere. It can't just disappear. So and that's the thing. It's one of those things which science will eventually find out, but I don't think we'll find out in our lifetime. Consciousness.
No, I don't think whatsoever in our lifetime. What do you class consciousness as? I mean, we know when we die that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just is and has been. Where the fuck does it go though? Like when it leaves your body, yes, we die. I mean, again, this is going to be another topic for another podcast, right? Yeah. Who the fuck knows until we get there, I guess. But again, this is another thing, right? A lot of people, when they say, I wish I could live forever. Yeah. Now, I think when people say that, they say it too hardly. Because when I think about living forever, it gives me fucking anxiety. The reason it gives me anxiety is because when you say, I wish I could live forever, you are talking about living for millions and millions and millions
truly
of years.
Immortal,
Immortal, right? And eventually the sun will explode and all this kind of stuff. But then you will live through generations and generations of family. Your mind eventually will just become boggled. Do you get what I mean? So I think it's easier to die. And really, when I think about dying, it relaxes me. Yeah. Compared to thinking, damn, I need to do this shit forever.
I think it would be interesting though, because if you think about the human brain, right, and memories, what would happen if you had too many memories? Would you lose some? Would you, what would happen? Would you just stop being able to remember? Things that happened recently, we can still remember things that happened, way back. It'd be interesting to see, but again, that is something which, there's pros and cons, right, to living forever. To live forever, you'd be able to see people grow up. You never would be able to grow up. You'd be able to see technological advancements, but again, I'm the same as you. For me, I know that in the end, I'll be by myself, right? You'll be the last person alive, and you'll just be there.
Hey. And do you know what I hate right now? I hate that I have to cut you off. The cameras are feeling it. They're feeling the drain. One of them's died. You're feeling it. Yeah, one of them's battery's exhausted. One of them's died. It's left on you. Your camera's only working right now. So I hate to wrap this up here because I feel like we could get a lot deeper.
Yes.
Right.
For another episode.
Yeah. So, guys, it's been good having you here. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of Let's Get Real, and we will see you guys in the next video.
Peace.